reality has been invaded by another world, ushering in an era of drastic changes, where the awakening of a class defines each person's future. In this new world, being weak has become the original sin. Our story begins on a sunny day with a large academy of extraordinary abilities visible from above. In the crowd, we see a young man laughing and having fun while playing on his cell phone. This is the protagonist, Ning, who brags about his advantage over his opponents until he receives a slap in the face. The woman scolding him is Wu, a blonde with amber eyes, who admonishes him for playing around instead of preparing for the upcoming awakening exam. Jokingly, Ning responds that he knows how to balance work and play. He states that at 18, he will probably receive an ordinary 2-star class, provoking Wu, who awakened a 5-star class at 16. He jokes that maybe he should lean on her to succeed, but she hugs him tightly and promises to help him. Ning then reminds her that the exam is about to begin. Meanwhile, others around comment on WU's greatness, questioning how the county waited so long for a genius like her. At the same time, they mock Ning, who has yet to awaken his class at almost 18, calling him a failure. They wonder what an orphan like him does being WU's childhood friend. Wu then drags Ning to the testing area. The world of Blue Star, where games have merged with reality, is presented. In this world, upon turning 16, anyone can unlock extraordinary abilities and become an adventurer. A voice echoes, informing that the rules of the exam will be explained. Anyone can awaken their class. Ning, however, becomes lost in thought, wondering why Wu needs to be so serious after all. This is her 3rd exam. The voice is heard again, calling students by name to go to the testing area, where they can unlock their class and proceed to the practical test. Around Ning, some comment on the classes they hope to awaken, such as Mage or Agile Fighter, and even highly desired support classes. Finally, it's Ning's turn. He responds and walks to the front, while some mock him. Arriving at Professor Qi, a woman with purple hair, he greets her, and she informs him that they would start when he is ready. Ning places his hand on an enormous crystal, which begins to glow brightly. The teacher instructs him to relax his mind. After a moment of silence, everyone is surprised to hear the announcement of Ning's awakening. The system reveals that he has unlocked a 1-star class, Magic Slime, and Professor Kai looks disappointed. The students in turn laugh at him, mocking his 1-star class. She asks what ability Ning has awakened, but he remains silent, leading her to believe he is shaken. She then hands him the equipment and instructs him to change for the next phase. As Ning picks up the items, he wonders if he really heard right. He remembers the moment of awakening, when the system revealed that, in addition to the Magic Slime skill, he had unlocked 2 passives, Dark Origin and Mysterious Gift. Dark Origin allows Ning to use curses without suffering their negative effects and at no cost, while Mysterious Gift enables him to cast forbidden spells once a week, also at no cost. Shocked, Ning wonders about the power of dark magic, which is considered one of the most dangerous, and the connection with forbidden spells. The system then informs you that due to your passive abilities, the Magic Slime class has begun to transform, changing to Unholy Earth Shield. Preparing for the test, Ning moves forward, hoping nothing goes wrong. They enter a large purple portal, and upon going through it, they find themselves in a dense forest, where others are facing goblins in various ways. The teacher informs that groups of 50 students will face monsters in this kingdom to get used to their skills. No one will be able to form teams or attack each other, and drones will monitor the situation. Ning, with his equipment, checks his status window, which describes the Unholy Shield of Earth, an ability that summons dark, otherworldly forces to form powerful barriers that can crush anyone who comes near. He worries about what might happen if someone discovers his dark magic and demands explanations from the system. And so, the story unfolds, with Ning preparing to face the challenges that await him in a world where strength is the key to survival and fame. Our generic little Gojo hides behind bushes, trying not to be seen as he reasons about his situation. Surveillance covers the entire field, and he knows he can't use his ability now. You need to wait for the right moment to act, as your attack options are limited. The scene changes to a monitoring room, where people observe the test via drones. A man, visibly curious, questions why young Ning is hiding, while everyone else faces F-class monsters. Professor Qi, present in the room, responds to Captain Zhou, explaining that Ning awakened his abilities later, has not good health, and his only ability is defensive. The captain, impatiently, suggests that it might be best to remove Ning from the test, arguing that someone who cannot become a true adventurer does not deserve to continue. Soon after, one of the drone operators catches everyone's attention, warning them that a drone has been destroyed. The transmission was interrupted. The screens show a power fluctuation far beyond what would be expected for that beginner-level boot camp. The head of operations, Jav, orders a team to investigate the origin of this energy. The camera then reveals a destroyed drone in front of this young man, who, sitting on the ground with his broken weapon, wonders why such strong monsters are appearing in a simple test. We then see a hooded goblin with sharp claws like Wolverine's, smiling as he watches the boy. He is followed by other goblins who await his orders. The goblin leader shouts at his allies to rise up and resist enslavement, ordering them to bury all the invaders there. His subordinates shout in response. With a quick movement, the hooded leader destroys a drone with a shockwave from his fist, generating a small explosion. Ning, realizing that he is surrounded by goblins, wonders about the presence of so many monsters. He soon concludes that their leader is the hooded figure, but before he can react, all of the drones disappear. He smiles, preparing to test his skill. He raises his hand and declares it's time to check if his curse is real. A purple aura begins to emanate from his hand, enveloping him in a dark energy. He loudly summons the unholy shield of earth, and greenish skeletal figures emerge within the energy, attacking the goblins with fury. In the control room, the head of operations notices that all transmissions have dropped, followed by a leak of shadowy energy. They suspect that a magical beast of king rank or higher has appeared, and reinforcements are requested. Captain Joe orders the evacuation of all civilians in the area, while Professor Kai reflects on the gravity of the situation. She knows that a C-rank creature alone can destroy an entire city. She wonders why something so terrifying appeared on the exam. Meanwhile, the goblins are in despair, and the hooded leader cannot understand what is happening. He watches his companions being torn apart by the monstrous figures of Ning's ability. Ning, in turn, feels a strange impact from this dark magic, as the system notifies him of the experience points gained for each goblin defeated. When the energy approaches the goblin leader, he begins to question whether the boy is really human. How can someone so young have such power? He felt his body slowing down, and in a cry of despair, he was consumed by energy, becoming yet another source of experience for Ning. The system then notifies Ning of the death of a goblin vanguard, granting him 6,000 experience points. After defeating the goblin vanguard, Ning checks his status and celebrates when he sees that he has reached wizard level 10. He reflects on how difficult it is to level up in tests like this, but is surprised to realize that defeating an elite monster like the goblin vanguard was the key to his advancement. He then notices the items left by the monsters, drawing his attention to the orange quality item left by the goblin vanguard. He examines the vanguard badge, which permanently increases his agility by 10 points. Ning also finds an assassin's shadow claw, but realizes he can only use it upon reaching level 20. Although he can't use it yet, he imagines he could sell it for a good price, helping him face even more powerful monsters in the future. Just then, Captain Joe's voice echoes, ordering everyone to abandon the test and use their teleportation scrolls to leave immediately. Ning, still confused about what is happening, notices the damage caused by the dark energy throughout the field. Sensing danger, he decides to leave quickly. On his knees, he uses his teleportation scroll and, with the other participants, is teleported back to safety, arriving with a mischievous smile on his face. He hears Captain Ju give the order for everyone to leave immediately and head to the city. Joe thinks that even if everyone joined together, they wouldn't have enough strength to face a creature of king level or higher. While waiting for reinforcements, he receives news that the source of the dark energy has disappeared. People in the monitoring room wonder if the creature may have escaped its kingdom. Captain Zhu then instructs everyone to remain on the slow server call, saying that the situation is out of control and that they should avoid alarms or disturbances. He orders them to create a magical seal with only one exit, allowing only unrelated people to leave. Ning notices Teacher T listening intently to her earpiece. He approaches and calls her, but she stops him, asking if he is okay. When he confirms, she orders him to leave the school with the others and only return if it is really necessary. The scene changes to the protagonist walking alongside Wang down the street, now in casual clothes. He comments that Professor T looked like she was about to face a mortal enemy and wonders aloud what is going on. Wang responds that an unknown energy source was detected at the school, which was isolated. The protagonist wonders if this has to do with the elite monster, regretting that the test was interrupted just when it would have been his turn to awaken. The blonde observes him, asking if he is too shaken by what happened, explaining that defensive spells can protect him, but are not effective in close combat. She then suggests he join her team. He refuses, saying he can manage on his own, dismissing her with a wave. He thinks it's not that he doesn't want to, but his only ability is extremely powerful and corrupted, and he can't use it in front of others. She screams, pointing her finger in his face, refusing to accept his refusal. Immediately, she tells him that she will wait for him at the west gate the next morning, and leaves, without giving him a chance to respond. Trying to speak but being ignored, he wonders why she acts like she is his wife. Frustrated, with his hands over his face, he wonders what he should do, but soon realizes that, with her personality, running away would be useless. Suddenly, he has an idea, although he doesn't know if it will work. After coming up with a plan, the scene shifts to the front of a huge building called the Yuan Chang Exhibition. Little Ning stands in front of the gigantic building, thinking about how some items could have built-in abilities. Using an item with the magic mud ability to impersonate a mage could be a way to hide your ability and follow Wang. He enters the building, hoping his passive ability doesn't turn the equipment's powers into curses. Also consider selling the monster items you have collected. Upon entering, he is greeted by a woman with dark hair and formal attire who looks like something out of One Piece, asking how she can help him. He He asks to see any item, clothing, or weapon with the mud magic ability. Asking if he is a newly awakened student, she explains that low-level spells such as mud magic are not worth purchasing, suggesting something higher level. Ning refuses, saying he only needs something temporary, not caring about the rankings. The woman then calls a rookie assistant to help him and walks away, commenting that he looks like a poor guy and that she wouldn't waste time on him. A girl with cherry eyes and tied-up brown hair approaches, telling him to let her know if he needs anything. He begins to explain what he's looking for, and the scene cuts to him testing out a few items. A glove that looks like the Infinity Gauntlet, emanating a blue aura, a sword so heavy he can't lift it, and a ring he seems pleased with. He thanks his assistant for guiding him through so many stores and asks where he could sell monster items. The girl takes him to the identification room, where an older man stares at him before letting him inside. The newcomer introduces him to Master Wong, nicknamed Toothy, explaining that the protagonist wants to sell the items collected in battle. The protagonist asks for an evaluation of the gauntlet, noting that it is an orange quality item, focused on agility and with a low level of use, making it ideal for beginners. He points out that the item also has 3 gem slots, allowing for customization, which makes it a good item. Dentuso asks if he has a price in mind. He responds, the higher the better. Toothy then gets up, saying that he will look for potential buyers, and asks the newcomer, now called Young, to take care of Ning. Toothless calls a man named Mr. Zhang, asking if he would be interested in an item for Jin Lung, while Yang serves tea for Ning. After some time, Dentuso returns, announcing that he has found a buyer willing to pay 50,000 crystals, but the protagonist will receive 46,000 after the fees. Dentuso informs him that he will need to go through some formalities before receiving the money, and since he is looking to buy equipment, he will recommend some items. We then cut to a group of spectators, including that same clerk. One of them asks why she let fresh meat go, since she likes attractive men. She responds directly that being beautiful doesn't do him any good if he's broke. For her, poor men don't deserve her time. Meanwhile, the spectators and the gold prospector exchange surprised looks at Master Walling and the client he is accompanying. One of the clerks comments that she heard that the young man sold an item for 50,000 crystals and is now buying another. This amount is equivalent to more than 3 months of their salaries combined. The gold prospector, in shock, wonders why she didn't help him from the beginning. In the next scene, Young approaches the protagonist and tells him that next time he should look for her directly. She finally introduces herself as Young Sin. The next day, we see Ning, carefree and whistling, as he strolls around. He comments about how he tested the magical equipment the night before and found that they are not affected by the system. Now he can keep his abilities a secret. Soon, he sees Wu and is surprised to see her there, but another voice interrupts. A man calling for Wu. The group that appears is made up of 4 people: a blue-haired wizard, a warrior with a ram, a berserker with red hair and scars on his face, and a girl with short pink hair who is a cleric. The berserker and cleric calmly greet Ning, while Wu introduces them as members of his guild. The mage and knight look at Ning in a way that suggests he owes them something. Ning, curious, wonders why they look at him like that, as the blue-haired man approaches Wu, mentioning that she is about to undergo her second transformation. In Ning's thoughts, it is explained that every 30 levels, a transformation occurs. This means that Wu is about to reach level 60, making her a true prodigy. Wu, suspicious, asks if something happened to make him make such a comment, but the man just hands her a potion, saying it's nothing special, just something he wanted to give in honor of her achievement. The potion is an advanced agility potion, which permanently increases by 3 more points, has an orange quality, and is consumable. The berserker, surprised, comments that it is a very high-quality item, while the cleric says that it must be worth a fortune. The blue-haired wizard nonchalantly replies that the price doesn't matter, as he only paid a few thousand crystals. The important thing for him is that the item is good and difficult to find, despite his father getting it through friends. However, to the surprise of the daddy's boy, Wu rejects the gift, asking him to take it back. Xiao, irritated, asks if she isn't committed to getting into the best university. He watches as Wu turns and starts to walk away, saying that he doesn't need this and that he has more important things to take care of. As she walks, Xiao interrupts, questioning if she would rather waste time on that kind of rubbish, pointing at Ning. Wu, irritated, warns him to measure his words. Xiao continues to mock, stating that a star like Ning will never amount to anything in life. Ning, not understanding the reason for the attack, thinks that perhaps only a forbidden spell could resolve this situation. The short-haired cleric approaches the blue-haired man, calling him by name, Xiao Chang, and says it's time to go, asking him to leave Ning alone. She adds, tongue-in-cheek, that Ning can't even afford a simple potion. Xiao mocks Ning, suggesting he leave and stop embarrassing them. Ning, without hesitation, responds by asking if Xiao is some rabid dog who bites whoever he wants, mocking citing the fact that a potion with 3 more doesn't give him the right to show off. Furious, Xiao questions whether this poor guy wants to die for talking like that. The knight then intervenes, asking if Ning really has something better, otherwise he shouldn't talk about something so precious. Xiao, agreeing with the knight, taunts Ning, suggesting that if he really has something better, he should kneel down and bang his head on the ground. Otherwise, you will be the first to kneel. Without hesitation, Ning pulls the Vanguard badge from his pocket and tells them to prepare, offering it as his gift to Wu. Everyone gasps as Wu asks if it's really an accessory that grants a permanent stat boost, admitting that he's never seen anything like it before. WU's group becomes suspicious, questioning whether a permanent increase of +10 could really exist, suspecting the item to be fake. Ning insists that Wu test it, inviting her to prove whether it is real or not, and says that he found the item at home. Ning manages to convince Wu, who, although hesitant, accepts the gift, saying that the item was made for her. As soon as she uses the item, she loudly announces that her attributes have indeed increased. The cleric is impressed, while the two who doubted Ning accuse him of stealing such a treasure. Mocking them, Ning suggests they bang their heads on the ground since they don't seem to believe it. Xiao protests, saying he won't do that. Wu asks if he's going to give up. The berserker and cleric look at Xiao with judgment, until he reluctantly kneels. Xiao angrily bows to Ning, still burning with anger at being forced to do this. Ning says goodbye to the group, saying that they will see each other around, and begins walking with Wu at his side. In the distance, Wu starts to apologize for Xiao and the others, but he stops her, saying that there is no need for an apology between them. He insists that, in fact, he would prefer if she didn't accompany him and focused on going alone, joining the best gym and achieving her second transformation. However, in his mind, he confesses that he actually just wants space to train without her around. You reassure him, telling him not to worry, but he responds that he's not worried. Next, Wu hands him 2 books, which he realizes are of purple quality skills. Wu explains that once he reaches the appropriate level, he can use them to learn these skills. Ning asks if the books were expensive, but Wu replies that considering the emblem he gave him, it's nothing. He then accepts. The scene cuts to a dungeon in the cemetery, with a gloomy landscape full of tombstones. Suddenly, a hand appears from the ground, followed by 2 undead figures that rise from the earth and begin to crawl towards the couple. But before they can get closer, 2 energy arrows fly out, hitting the undead's heads and killing them instantly. Ning congratulates her on her precision, but internally complains about the low experience they are gaining there. However, he cannot reveal that he is already at level 10. Feeling a little lost, he doesn't know what to do until he receives a call on her phone. She answers, and on the other side, the cleric warns that the big boss, the fallen Necromancer, is about to appear, which represents a rare chance. She asks if she should go, and Zizi Shang insists that she should, because without her, it will be impossible to defeat him. Additionally, the fallen Necromancer can drop rare items useful for mages, which is important for Ning. Wu looks at Ning hesitantly, but he tells her she should go, assuring her that with everyone focused on the boss, he can continue training later. She agrees, asking him to wait for her in the safe area. He responds with a thumbs up, watching as she runs to the boss's location. When she leaves his sight, he jokes, calling her grandma, and she responds by telling him he's an idiot and telling him to shut up. Finally alone, Ning takes the opportunity to train and feels relieved to be able to train without distractions. He thanks his luck for such a powerful boss to appear today. He notes that the book Wu gave him can only be used from level 15, but remembers that all skills can be used once for free, so the more he has, the better. At the current level, it only has 3 skill slots, as players unlock a new slot every 5 levels. The scene shifts to the center of the cemetery, where several creatures are wandering around. Among them, a hooded skeleton stands out. A group of players appears, led by a warrior in heavy armor. He warns them that they need to clear all the creatures to get to the boss, who waits at the end of the dungeon. He advises the group to be careful as the monsters are strong. Suddenly, a large flame hits the group. A support player encourages them to hurry, as another team has already caught up to the boss. They are surprised to see that the rival team, formed by Wanggu and Xiao Chang from the Sovereign Lion Guild, is already there. The guild is known for its high level of skill. We see Xiao Chang's team defeating the creatures quickly. He brags that it will be his team who defeats the boss. During his display, the barbarian and cleric comment on how Xiao has improved his strength thanks to an item with 10 more agility. The scene cuts to a massive tower surrounded by jagged mountain ranges. A large rift opens near the tower, and Ning emerges from it, already inside the tower, talking about his new teleportation ability. He can now use the Voidwalker ability to cross into the Dark World and move quickly for up to an hour. When he steps onto the ground, a reddish aura appears, and a huge hooded skeletal figure stands up. The Necromancer mocked Ning for being late. The Necromancer casts a spell, shooting a green fireball with a monstrous face. The ball hits the the spot where Ning was standing, exploding into green flames and leaving a scorched mark on the ground. The Necromancer questions how an adventurer dares to appear alone, but upon feeling a presence behind him, he turns and sees Ning, who, with a cold look in his eyes, says that he came alone so as not to have to share the loot. The Necromancer is surprised as Ning reveals his newly unlocked skill, Rain of Rocks. Flaming rocks begin to fall from the sky, destroying everything around them. The tower and the Necromancer are hit by the rocks, causing an explosion that destroys the structure and raises a cloud of dust. From the smoke, we see Ning's silhouette emerging, smiling. He defeated several creatures in the fallen Necromancer, gaining 50,000 experience points. With this, Ning reaches level 30, unlocking his first transformation. He looks around, noticing the items scattered across the floor. With his hand raised, he thinks about using the gems and jewels he has collected. Although the books you received are not exclusive, they still have great value. Then, he finds the Fallen Wall Pendant, which requires level 30 to use, a Dark Soul Stone as material, and the Necromancer's emblem. He takes the emblem, equips it, and upon absorbing it, calculates the gains. Despite losing 3 points of stamina, he gains an impressive increase of 150 in spirit. At this time, a toast notification appears, informing him that due to badge detection, he has an important choice. You can opt for the secret Undead Mage class or activate a secret quest to unlock the Mage of All Elements class. Surprised by the rarity of the secret classes, he suspects that the emblems are key to unlocking these hidden abilities. Without hesitation, he decides to become the Wizard of All Elements, smiling as meteor after meteor falls around him. The scene shifts to WU's group, panicking as the meteors hit the ground around them. The Barbarian, perplexed, asks how such a powerful spell is possible. Wu firmly orders everyone to retreat and follow him, warning that if they stay, they will be crushed to ashes. Jam Chong protests, insisting that they shouldn't abandon the boss, but Wu responds, asking if he really wants everyone to die in that situation, and grumbling about his bad luck. Finally, Jam agrees. Wu takes out his cell phone and tries to send a message to Ning, but receives a reply saying that he has already left to sort out something. The scene then transitions outside the dungeon, where Ning approaches a nearly empty temple. He is greeted by a woman who asks if he is there for the transformation mission. Ning confirms, and she begins recording her information: name, age, and class. Curious, she comments that an awakening of just 18 points and a 1-star class are weak qualifications. She instructs him to follow her to the magical awakening area. Arriving at a room full of floating crystals arranged around a circular space, she tells Ning that she will leave him to it. He just thanks you. As she walks away, Ning comes across a familiar figure, Captain Joe. He interrupts the woman to report the results of an investigation. The sinister graveyard suffered extensive damage, and the power source was not found, but the threat is estimated to be king level. The woman, surprised, asks if there really were 2 king level threats in 2 days, and Captain Joe confirms, explaining that this is why he was sent there. He then instructs the woman to put the Lonely Shadow into action. The scene cuts to the system notification about the first transformation quest for the Necromancer class, where Ning must enter the realm of illusions at Wangu's tomb to obtain the Blood Soul Crown item. The mission lasts 3 days and has difficulty classified as level A. At that moment, a masked figure with white hair and elaborate clothing appears, displaying another system screen. This details the prerequisites for the first transformation quest for the God class of all magic systems, requiring Ning to enter the realm of illusions in the Temple of the Radiant Sun to obtain the sacred emblem item. With a difficulty level of S and also a deadline of 3 days, Ning reflects and decides to choose the God class from all magic systems, believing it is just an initial quest. He confirms his choice, relieved to have 3 days to complete the task. As he leaves, he says goodbye to his wife, who wishes him good luck. However, Ning realizes that she is different from the woman he met previously. The scene then returns to the Tower of the Fallen Necromancer, in a shadowy cave where silhouettes move. A newbie comments, surprised, upon seeing a lone shadow for the first time. The captain reprimands him, asking him to lower his voice, remembering that the very existence of this organization is an absolute secret. It mentions rumors that all members of this organization have a secret class that allows them to channel the power of darkness in combat, especially in special missions. The woman from before, now clad in armor, notes that although the energy is almost gone, she still feels it due to the overwhelming power of this force. He informs the 2 men that they still haven't found any clues about the culprit. She suggests that whoever was responsible likely disappeared after causing the destruction, leaving them with no way of understanding his motives. Zhao then questions whether there might be a link between the anomalies in the secret realms and this incident. Unable to confirm, he promises to consult his superiors and request reinforcements. The newbie asks if it was really her who summoned the solitary shadow hurricane and speculates that the problem might not even involve a monster. Jing stops him, suggesting that he suspects a mutant like her. The newbie quickly apologizes, denying this intention. Jing responds that the level of power displayed surpasses the king level, making it unlikely that a human body can control such dark energy. The man concludes that an abnormally powerful monster may be lurking, posing a catastrophic threat. Jing agrees, stating that they need to locate him quickly before he attacks again. The scene changes to the protagonist's house, shrouded in complete darkness. He closes the curtains and comments on how comforting he finds the darkness. Sitting on the floor, he celebrates having reached level 30 and unlocked 4 additional spell slots. Without wasting time, activate 2 new skills. Arcane Shield, which combines with the Unholy Earth Shield, creating Unholy Earth Defense. This passive ability nullifies up to 100% of the damage absorbed and gradually regenerates your defensive capacity. Satisfied, he notices how lesser abilities can fuse to form more powerful techniques, rendering normal attacks ineffective against him. When you test another book, you unlock the Rock Technique. When combined with Unholy Earth Shield and Meteor Shower, it creates Earth Elemental Mastery, increasing the power of all Earth abilities by 20%. Excitedly, he realizes that he still has 4 slots available and decides to visit Yuan's exhibition to purchase more books. At the exhibition, he enters and passes the same opportunistic woman he encountered before. She tries to get closer, but he ignores her, choosing to explore alone. Irritated, she insists, but is soon interrupted by Yang, who arrives in a hurry. Yang explains that he wasn't with another customer, just getting a snack. The protagonist apologizes for interrupting her meal and promises to take her to dinner later. As the opportunistic woman mumbles in the background, they head to speak with Master Wang. In the office, Wang examines the items Ning brought, including 2 purple-grade skill books. When requesting more skills for mages, Wang asks Yang to help him while he looks for buyers. However, Wang begins to distrust Ning, recalling that he had previously sold an orange-grade weapon. Intrigued, he decides to investigate Ning's past. Later, Ning and Yang have dinner at a restaurant. When he asks for the bill, he finds that Yang has already paid. Confused, he insists on knowing the reason, but she replies that it's a secret and that he shouldn't worry. Outside, Yang says goodbye quickly, gets into a taxi, and informs the driver that she is going to the city hospital. She thinks to herself that thanks to the commission obtained from Ning, she will finally be able to pay her father's medical expenses. On the way, a loud noise causes the car's windows to explode, scattering shrapnel and blood. A giant blue portal appears in the center of the city, releasing creatures that attack everything around them. One of these creatures, huge and muscular, destroys the car and kills the driver. Yang jumps out of the vehicle, rolling on the ground, and tries to understand how the monsters crossed the safe zone barrier. She stands up and faces the monstrous creature with claws and a bloody hoof. In the sky, a humanoid figure emerges from the portal and slowly descends. His right arm appears mutated, and he wears a skull pendant with a blue gem. Before Yang can react, a gigantic explosion occurs. From the flames, the monstrous creature appears roaring. Yang, standing with her arm outstretched, is amazed to realize that her magic had no effect. A screen displays that Yang is a 1-star mage at level 34. Suddenly, a huge creature leans in to attack her. However, before reaching her, her body disintegrates in an explosion of blood. A man appears, holding an imposing sword and wearing heavy armor. His blade shines brightly. Blood splatters as Yang takes cover, realizing it was Captain Xiao who saved her. Xiao asks if she is okay. Yang responds in the affirmative, and he directs her to find a safe place to hide. As she runs, Jia takes in her surroundings and comments that the secret realm has begun to merge with reality. He has never seen such severe decomposition, analyzing the remains of the creature he just defeated. Jia warns that these creatures are too strong to face alone. He remembers the words of a scientist who mentioned an incredibly powerful creature within the kingdom, capable of causing chaos at any time. As he ponders whether this creature could be the one they are looking for, he is surprised by a fast hand. He dodges and gets into a combat stance, questioning whether that human is a mutant. The mysterious figure turns out to be a man with blue hair, part of his body modified to look like armor. He uses bands with symbols and a headband. Denying being a mutant, he presents himself as the Guardian of Dark Power. Xiao doesn't recognize the title, but knows this is not the time to hesitate. Xiao moves forward to attack, but is repelled by a punch from the Guardian's modified arm. Xiao is thrown back and concludes that that man must be above the 3rd transformation. The Guardian smiles evilly, emanating a blue aura with black lightning. His eyes glow with blue pupils pupils as he warns that Xiao is too weak to face him. He attacks quickly and hits Xiao's armored chest, launching him away and leaving a trail of blood. The guardian laughs, feeling stronger as he steps onto that ground. A light emanates from the stone on his necklace, and a dark voice echoes, berating him for his arrogance. The voice reminds him that his power has been granted, and that without it, he is nothing more than a weak and despicable being. The guardian is mentally transported to a dark environment where a sinister creature appears. She demands sacrifices from the people in the city to dominate the world. He agrees, and the scene returns to the real world. Meanwhile, Ning exits a building, confused after being in the bathroom. He finds the place destroyed, with people fallen and a creature approaching. Ning remains calm, and as the creature approaches, he summons a pillar of rock that splits it in half. He is grateful for his purple quality magic gauntlet. Ning opens the doors and sees a landscape covered in strange matter. He witnesses a bloodied man being dragged by the guardian, who approaches him. Suddenly, within the flames, the creature that attacked Yang roars, but its magic appears ineffective. The guardian is surprised by Ning's resistance. The voice on the necklace warns that Ning's aura is incredibly strong, more terrifying than death itself. Ning confronts the guardian, asking if he intends to use a curse forbidden in the city. His eyes shine with anger and determination as he strengthens his defense. He destroys the guardian's armor, leaving him astonished at how easily his arm was rendered useless. Desperate, the guardian asks his leader for help, but is informed that he is unreachable. A scream echoes before our vision shifts to another location, where strange creatures are desperately running towards the rift. Someone among them pressures them to be quick as the doors are about to close. We return to Ning and the guardian. Holding his injured arm, the guardian questions what happened to his power. Ning, with his eyes shining and a smile on his face, looks confident. The chapter pauses to explain how mutants function during the awakening process. They can emerge with the secret shadow class, allowing them to use the dark force and become more powerful than ordinary classes at the same level. However, when they lose the protection of darkness, they become vulnerable. We return to the confrontation. The former guardian screams as he is pierced in the chest with a stone skewer. Items fall to the ground as Ning watches, recognizing the difficulty of the combat. He feels relieved to be able to focus on the attack without worrying about the defense. Ning decides to collect the dropped items before anyone notices and then return home. The scene changes to outside a building, where Jing walks with a girl with short hair. They discuss the monsters that retreated and the disappearance of the invasion. Jing reflects on the destructive abilities used, the sudden invasion, and the kingdom's disappearance. Concerned, she asks the girl about other areas. The girl replies that they are safe, except for the destruction in the southern region. Jing mentions that this is Captain Jay's area and suggests investigating. The scene darkens. Now, we see a man examining the body of the former captain, dead and with his arm pierced by thorns. This man, Duan, with gray hair, asks if all the belongings were stolen. A scream echoes, ordering him to identify himself. Jing and the short-haired girl approach. Duan reveals himself as a member of the Cloud Kingdom and shows his emblem. Jing asks if it is the secret organization made up of fighters. He confirms and explains that the former guardian was part of the group, but betrayed them by helping with the invasion. The girl asks if this happened recently, and Jing speculates that his death may have ended the invasion. Duan asks if they were the ones who killed him, but Jing denies it. Duan reveals that the former guardian was hiding in the realms and constantly escaping. Jing remembers that Xia, even in the third transformation, was easily defeated. She reflects on the possibility that there is someone incredibly strong in King Yu City. Duan walks away, saying he's going to look for something. We cut to Ning at home celebrating the items obtained. 2 sets of orange fighter class armor, level 120. He cheers up, considering the fight more exciting than facing bosses. Ning analyzes an unspecified necklace and wonders if an ancient god is hidden within the pendant. We shift to another location, where a creature watches Ning through a globe. This creature, who was talking to the former guardian, fears having been discovered. Sitting on a throne, she panics when Ning mentions the ancient god on the pendant. The image quality of the globe drops, and she orders to cut off contact to avoid being located. Creatures run around organizing the place, while the panting creature recognizes his luck for having closed the rift in time. Finally, we cut to the city hospital. Captain Zhou claims that it was the young fighter who saved them, making the enemy flee through the rift. Jing confirms that Duan didn't seem weaker than her, making the story plausible. Meanwhile, the assistant next to Jing asks if even such a strong man couldn't defeat the former captain, and if it's really a mystery who killed him. Jing confirms that for now, everything points to an enigma. She mentions that he could have just been passing through or hiding, but who did it remains a recorded mystery. Other than the common marks of magic at the scene, nothing else was found. Siral ponders whether this mystery really lives nearby, stating that he would feel safer. The assistant, on the other hand, suggests an exaggerated idea. As the scene shows the exterior of the hospital building, he asks if there are any traces of the dark force from last night's battlefield. Z confirms that there were some monsters from the kingdom present. The assistant insists on the idea, speculating whether the mystery could be a mutant, since the 2 forbidden magics did not cause fatalities. Before Before concluding, Xiao interrupts him, saying that this is impossible and that he is exaggerating. Jing begins to question whether he is truly losing touch with reality. The scene changes to Ning walking down the street and approaching two security guards. He introduces himself and informs that he is there for a class change mission. We see a vast landscape with the symbol of the sun. En confirms that this is the Temple of the Radiant Sun. Behind him, a shadow moves stealthily behind a rock. It's Duan, spying on Ning. We go back in time a few days to an exhibition. Du enters the room accompanied by a broker who announces his arrival to Master Wian. Wian greets him and asks if he's interested in a set of armor for a 4-transformation fighter. The broker observes how tall, elegant, and strong Du is, imagining that by his side, his future would be guaranteed. Wian mentions that a previous customer offered a set of 4-star armor for sale, but he only has 2 pieces, the pants and the breastplate. Duan asks about the salesman, but Wian explains that he can't come today. In thought, Duan considers that these pieces could be part of his master's heritage. Duan presses to find out more about the seller and even offers to pay for the information. Wang, intrigued, mentions that the seller may have gone to resolve matters in a neighboring city and suggests calling to confirm. In Master Wang's office, he questions the broker about the boy who just left. She confirms that she escorted him to the exit and asks if there is anything wrong. Wang reveals that he investigated the young man's past, discovering that he came from ordinary parents with 2-star classes, but that they disappeared when he was still a child. Ning awakened at the age of 18 as a star class. Wang comments that he expected him to be stronger, but appears disappointed. The broker becomes suspicious of Ning, questioning how someone so simple could obtain such valuable items. Wang thinks he may be friends with someone influential, but has not received direct help. She suggests that Ning may have stolen the set. Wang, however, says that even if it wasn't theft, the acquisition doesn't seem legitimate, and that Ning pissed off the wrong person. Back at the Temple of the Radiant Sun, Duan follows Ning and reflects on how a young man managed to cleanse a kingdom that even veterans were unable to face. He watches Ning equip his standard armor and tries to gauge his strength. When Ning reveals his budding mage outfit, Duan is surprised to notice how ordinary he looks, almost like a recently graduated student. He suspected it might be a disguise. Given Ning's age, a beginner's look wouldn't attract attention, helping him blend in with the crowd. Observing that Ning might try to hide and run away, Duan decides to use a skill to mark him with a spiritual sensor. This sensor locates the target within its own consciousness without being detected. He takes advantage of Ning's casual appearance to tag him as he watches him walk. The battlefield extends all the way to the temple. Duan wonders why he is in this kingdom full of high-level monsters. Meanwhile, Ning enters the boss room and is immediately attacked by a creature. However, the attack is completely nullified by Ning's passive skill. Duan is shocked by the impenetrable defense and notices how the monsters are running away from him, confirming that Ning is no ordinary person. The monsters run in despair, while Duan observes a huge bronze statue sitting on a throne. He imagines that this must be the final boss and wonders if Ning really intends to face her alone. M loudly celebrates the absence of others in the area. Duan questions why he faces a low-level boss and why the statue won't move. Ning, on the other hand, remembers that the quest guide didn't mention that statue. He starts walking around the throne, heading towards a hallway. The statue, shaking with fear and sweating, hopes not to be discovered by this living hack. As Ning celebrates finding the path, an imposing creature appears in the room. Armed with golden wings, a hood, and an elegant stance, the being floats in the air. His silver armor with gold details shines, and his eyes light up the inside of his hood as he begins to move. Ning wonders why the creature retreated. Duan, observing everything, questions whether he knew about the existence of this hidden boss and whether it is really a rare enemy. Ben, in turn, sees that the quest for the god of all classes of magical systems has been activated, with the goal of defeating the secret boss, the 6-winged angel. Ning questions how someone could handle this on their first class change, noting the mission's extreme difficulty. The angel, desperate, tries to escape. He breaks the ceiling, trying to distance himself from Ning as golden lightning falls from the sky. The creature flies away, but Ning remains still, with his right hand in his pocket. Then he lifts it up, surrounded by a purple aura showing a serious expression. The system notifies the activation of the prohibited skill Fell from Thunder. A huge lightning storm forms, displaying the power of the heavens. A colossal eye opens among the clouds with a golden pupil, like a god judging a worm. A devastating bolt of lightning strikes, completely disintegrating the angel. Meanwhile, Ning continues to stand still, watching the lightning strikes around him. The area is destroyed. Smoke rises and the temple structure begins to collapse. Duan, lying on the ground, looks up in disbelief at what he just witnessed. He comments that he has never seen anything so destructive and fears that Ning could be someone with the legendary 8 transformations, definitely superior to his master. We return to Ning, who observes the perforated ceiling and complains about losing experience for not completing the transformation. He takes the necessary emblem and claims that he has at least obtained the item, then use a teleportation teleportation scroll to leave the area. Before leaving, Ning hears someone calling him. It's Duan, running toward him. Duan looks scared, while Ning maintains a serious expression. Trying to calm the situation, Duan apologizes and explains that he didn't mean to cause any problems. He admits he was just trying to confirm something. Duan also reveals that despite his master being strong, he sacrificed himself to temporarily seal the kingdom. However, the traitor managed to escape. Duan continues explaining, showing anger by clenching his fists. He says that, over the years, the traitor sacrificed countless humans to undo the seal. Despite chasing him, Duan never managed to catch up. Ning listens carefully, preparing himself for the next challenge. Ning thinks to himself, finding it curious that Duan, now in his 4th transformation, revealed himself so late. If he hadn't done this, Ning would never have noticed him. Even with the forbidden skills, Ning believes that Duan's level is very low and that, in a short time, his foolishness will be discovered. Duan, in turn, looks at him with a frightened expression, as if he could devour Ning with his gaze. Silently, Duan wonders if Ning is really considering killing him. Trying to hide her secret but afraid, Duan thanks Ning for avenging her deceased master and promises that if she needs anything in the future, she will be there to help. Ning, pondering the fact that Duan is strong and lonely, sees a good opportunity to create a bond. He then makes it clear that no one but Duan can know what happened there. Duan assures him that he will keep the secret, while in his mind he reflects on Ning's magic, which is powerful but does not harm innocents. He knows that Ning was responsible for clearing the kingdom's invasion and saving the city, and although he doesn't understand the need for secrecy, he feels great respect for him. For now, Duan has nowhere to go, so he decides to stay in Kimu. Ning gets up and starts walking, with Duan following him. Ning's phone starts ringing. When he answers, he hears Professor Kai's voice. She asks where he is, and he quickly responds that he is out of town and will be back soon, asking if she needs anything. She says she has some things to ask and asks them to meet when he gets back. Without another word, she hangs up, leaving Ning puzzled as to the reason for the sudden call. The scene changes to a meeting room where Professor Kai talks to Jing. Jing asks what was said, and Kai responds that Ning is fine and will be back soon. Jing mentions that Ning recently awakened and has already achieved 1st transformation, commenting that if it weren't for the investigation, he would have gone unnoticed. Kai, also present, praises Ning's talent and character, trusting that he is not a bad person. Jing, however, makes it clear that he is not suggesting that he is bad, but needs to clarify some issues. She watches Kai suspiciously as the scene changes again. In the conference room, a man begins to present preliminary information, mentioning that the superiors will soon be interested in what is happening. An older man asks if there is anything else to discuss. Jing then asks if the spells used in the city were caused by mutants. Everyone looks at each other, and the older man approaches, asking why Jing, being a mutant, asks this question. He explains that mutants use the dark force, but they need to pay a price, which can range from losing their sanity to transforming into monsters. The stronger the mutant, the higher the price. He emphasizes that a mutant with the strength of a king is impossible. At that moment, a man with blue hair, similar to Vedas, interrupts, calling Jing an old friend and saying that she is losing her reason by inventing king-level mutants. He advises her to write stories, as he seems to love making them up. Jing stops him, stating that he is just considering all the possibilities and that if he wants to listen, he is free to decide. The sarcastic blue man asks if she is trying to justify herself and insinuates that she is incompetent. He states that if there really was a king-level mutant, he would rip his own head off to use it as a wall. The older man then informs that investigation teams have been sent to Kimu and will assist in the work. He also mentions that the Lone Shadow's reinforcement requests were not approved. Jing questions if this means a lack of trust in her, but he responds that it isn't that and asks her to be patient. She stretches as suddenly the door opens and a girl with short hair enters, shouting Captain Jing and announcing that the Temple of the Radiant Sun has been hit by a destructive spell, with injuries at the scene. Teacher Kai chimes in and mentions that Ning Fang was undergoing his 1st transformation test. Jing, interrupting her, confirms that this occurred in the Temple of the Radiant Sun. She smiles, figuring things are finally starting to get interesting. We see the city of Longo from above, with a large protective shield. Ning and Duan are in a crowd, and Ning wonders what could be happening in the Temple of the Radiant Sun. The people, terrified by what was happening, began to be calmed down by a soldier. He assured that the shield was at a higher level, isolating the dark powers outside the protected area, and that it would not affect the civilians within the shield. Ning, however, couldn't stop thinking about how much attention he had attracted, activating the alert level again. There was nothing to do but wait for the alarm to pass. Meanwhile, dark energy streaked across the sky, and suddenly, a monstrous face emerged emerged from the darkness, followed by a smaller version of the creature. The monster in front looked around and questioned whether this was really the human world, realizing that the magic shield had been activated at the same time by them. He wondered why the shield was still working. The creature that accompanied him explained that humans were weak, always hiding in their shells. Soon, other creatures began to appear behind them. When several of them appeared, the likely general stated that the divine artifact could no longer stop them. Pointing at the city, he ordered them to attack. The humans were stunned. From their perspective, the shield that had been so secure began to crack, and the creatures passed through easily, without resistance. Panic set in when the creatures began to attack as people tried to escape. One soldier, confused, asked how the creatures had managed to break through the shield, and another explained that the shield had not been damaged, just overcome. In the midst of the confusion, Duan used his energy to create a barrier, protecting people from the panicked crowd. He warned Ning that this was likely a high-level hack. Ning asked if it was similar to the attack that occurred in the other city the night before. Duan asked if they needed to intervene, but Ning, with a surprised look, asked if Duan had a solution for that. Duan misinterpreted it, thinking that Ning was challenging him, thinking that he could easily handle the situation. With a confident smile, Duan prepared to act. Ning, however, was more concerned about the number of people and preferred to leave that to the authorities. The moment he told him to go, a massive explosion erupted within the crowd. The army general had fallen among them, laughing as he deflected arrows with ease, before being attacked by a knight who tried to attack him from behind. The creature, however, was faster and threw the knight away. The surrounding soldiers wondered how they couldn't even scratch that creature. The general, disappointed in the humans, began to advance towards the crowd, who were scattering in panic, trampling on each other as they begged for help. A girl remained behind, with the general approaching, raising his sword. He shouted that humans were useless, but was interrupted by the sound of clashing swords. Luan, with an impressive pose, blocked the general's sword using only a golden dagger, allowing the girl to escape. Duan, realizing that although Ning did not need protection, the others were in danger, decided to act. He couldn't just watch. Upon hearing this, Ning asked him to stop calling him sir, as it was embarrassing. The creature excitedly said that at least one person here was not useless, but was soon thrown away by Duan's strength. Before the creature could recover, Duan was already on it, jumping with his daggers and cutting it quickly, without giving it a chance to react. The people around watched, marveling at his skill, and wondering what level he was at to be so fast and strong. Surely, they thought, he must be someone with a 5-star secret class. As the creature exploded behind him, Duan continued his advance toward the army, his profile illuminated by the scene. Level 137, secret class, secret warrior. He thought about how amazing he looked, but to keep calm, he just commented that he had something interesting. In the observation tower, the humans shouted that with the monster leader dead, they could fight back. Archers fired at the creatures trying to retreat into the abyss. With the death of the leader, the darkness that enveloped the city began to dissipate. Duan turned to Ning and asked if there was anything else to be done. Ning, relieved, denied it, saying that Duan had already done enough. The people around watched Duan respecting Ning and wondered how strong he was for this great warrior to treat him with so much respect. Some even speculated that Ning might be of nobility, with Duan being his experienced bodyguard. Duan holds out the items that fell from the leader, asking our protagonist to accept them. All around, people are excited to see the orange quality items. Although they couldn't use them, they knew that selling them would yield a fortune in crystals. The protagonist takes the first item, an agility skill book, and comments that it would be perfect for Wu, especially the fatal entry skill. The next item is a shield with the appearance of the face of the creature they had faced, the Black Shield. They could sell it later for a good price. While discussing the items, 2 awakened individuals approach, asking for attention. One of them uses armor supported by a crutch. The scene then shifts to a little further on, where the town's mayor, Mooding, thanks them for saving Longbow. He introduces himself and asks if they are from out of town, since they don't look like locals. Ning responds that they are just trying to do some business, but got stuck in the area due to the emergency. However, his response is misinterpreted, and the mayor sees him as a threat, feeling intimidated. Ning tries to apologize, stuttering, but not quite knowing how to act. One of the awakened intervenes, taking the blame for any misunderstanding, and expresses regret. Ning, not wanting to complicate matters, says that there is no need for an apology, thinking to himself that it was, in fact, his fault. The mayor asks his assistant to bring a scroll of flight as a reward. Ning thinks it was a great acquisition since it wasn't easy to find something like this in a small town. Even if it could only be used once, it would be a practical way to to travel to distant places. The mayor then makes a request to Ning, asking if he could stay in the city longer, as things were not calm and the city's defense was weak. However, Ning regrets not being able to attend, as he needed to complete his class change in 3 days. If it was delayed, the opportunity would be lost. He then asks if the mayor thinks he's free, which sounds bad, scaring the mayor, who immediately apologizes. Soon, the assistant arrives with the scroll and an added bonus: a supreme black Yuan Chen exhibition card, a gesture of gratitude and respect. Ning recognizes that this card is only given to a small elite, which explains how the mayor was able to purchase the scroll. Duan takes the card as Ning thanks him. The mayor then asks if the city faces danger in the future, they could count on their help. Ning confirms, but only if he has time. The people around begin to celebrate, and soon Duan uses the flight scroll to take Ning out of the city. The scene shifts to the class change room in Kimu City, where Wang's team is informed that they are done with the flu. As they walk, Huan notices 2 auras flying across the sky, one green and one purple. She stops to watch, and Blue asks why she stopped. She responds that she saw people flying and thought one of them was Fang. Blue says she's wrong, as a flight scroll costs thousands of crystals, something Ning could never afford. He also questions why Ning would be in the class change room since he has just awakened. Wang, however, remains silent, irritated by Blue's insinuation. The pink-haired cleric approaches and asks how Wang's transformation missions are going. Meanwhile, Blue talks to the barbarian about the awakening level quest he received. The barbarian tries to console Blue, saying that only the lucky ones get S-level missions, and the knight reminds him that completing the second transformation mission at 18 is a great feat, something coveted by the best universities. The cleric, excited, asks how Wang is, but notices that she is sad. Her companions notice and begin to speculate whether she received a mission of SE rank or lower. Blue thinks to himself that even prodigies have their bad days. A suboptimal class change quest can affect attribute and skill bonuses. He then says out loud that Wang still has the potential to surpass others in the future, and if she doesn't, he will be there to help her. But deep down, he still believes that a C-rank mission would be a huge step backwards. To everyone's surprise, Wang responds sharply, saying that she isn't upset about an A-rank mission, so she shouldn't care about an S-rank 1 mission. Everyone is impressed, as something like this is extremely rare. The pink-haired cleric, surprised, asked why Wang hadn't mentioned anything earlier. Wang explained that this mission was different from the previous ones, and that she had unlocked a hidden class, something she had never seen before. Skeptical, he questioned how this would be possible, as a player's classes were defined in the First Awakening, and he had never heard of a class change, much less a hidden one, during a transformation. He suggested that Wang might be wrong. Suddenly, the scene shifted to the past, to the transformation field, where Wine received a system notification. The item Vanguard Emblem had been detected, allowing her to advance from her starting class, Agile Marksman, to Vanguard Shadow. The system asked her if she wanted to accept the change, as it would alter her mission. Wine, surprised, realized that the emblem was the same gift that Ming had given her. The system then revealed that Ning did not know this. Wine remembered how confident Ning seemed at the time, and thanking him, decided to accept the change. We return to the present, where Wine explained what had happened. The pink-haired girl scolded her for being so hasty, but was interrupted by Blue, who shouted, asking what Vanguard Shadow meant. He wondered if the transformation system was faulty, and feared that this wrong choice could ruin Wine's life. Wang reassured her, but Blue insisted he was worried about her. The barbarian enviously commented on the 5-star hidden class that Wine had achieved, and expressed even more envy at the transformation. The pink-haired girl thought that she would also like to have a friend like Ning. Blue, determined, knew he needed to find this emblem, no matter the risk. We cut to the protagonist, who is now holding the sacred emblem taken from the Guardian. By consuming it, he completed an S-rank mission, triggering his class change, which drastically increased his attributes and granted him passive abilities. He wondered how far his strength could reach. The passive skill he gained, Shadow Domain, increased his control over the Dark Force, allowing him to cast forbidden spells with enhanced accuracy. Outside, Duan waited as Jing approached, questioning him if he was the fighter she had seen during the invasion. She commented on Ning's power, who, despite being young, already possessed the power of a 4th transformation. She noted that according to reports, Ning always stayed behind during Dee's invasion, but showed great respect. Out loud, she told Professor Kai that her student was difficult to deal with, but she would count on her. Ning and Duan were talking when the teacher approached. Ning, recognizing him, asked if he had called him to discuss something. Jing confirmed, and with a serious tone called him Sir, saying that he would wait for them to finish. The teacher noticed the formal address and asked why Ning was being called Sir. Ning, trying to hide it, stated that he was just joking. The teacher then asked if Ning had completed his first transformation. Ning nervously realized that his secret was about to be discovered. He knew he couldn't hide it much longer, but he also knew that Jing was one of the few people he could trust. Then, with a nervous smile, he responded in the affirmative, saying he preferred not to share too many details. Jing seriously mentioned that something still felt strange, and asked if Ning had been been affected by the dark force. Ning, confused and irritated, wondered why she was questioning this. He realized that she probably wanted to see his status in the system. She explained that the world was undergoing strange changes and invasions from secret realms were increasing. Many affected people were transforming into new mutants. Ning, trying to calm her down, assured her that he was not a mutant, although he knew that mutants were monitored by the government and did not want to get involved with that. Despite trusting him, Jing offered him a crystal and asked him to take a test to check his amount of dark force. She explained that by injecting her energy into the crystal, it would show the level of dark force she possessed. Ning hesitated, feeling uncomfortable. He explained that he was nervous, as it was his first time in a situation like this. When he touched the crystal and injected some energy, the crystal shattered into pieces, leaving them stunned. The protagonist, trying to hide it, asked what had happened. Professor Kai remembered a conversation with Jing, where she explained that the black crystal was highly sensitive to the dark force. The government often used it to detect mutants. When exposed to a certain amount of dark force, the crystal vibrated, and the more energy it absorbed, the stronger the vibration became. She touched the crystal, making it vibrate gently. But the professor interrupted his thoughts, looking at the fragments falling from the crystal and asking what it meant. When the crystal exploded, the protagonist commented on how impressive it was to see someone awaken and undergo a transformation so quickly. But the teacher already knew that. She was thoughtful for a moment, wondering if she really knew his character. It confirmed in his mind that he had lost his parents a long time ago and awakened later than most. Having an optimistic mindset under such circumstances was rare. She trusted him, but by protocol, she would need to inform her superiors about what had happened. He understood, but silently wondered what the authorities' reaction would be. In the best-case scenario, he could leave King Yu City immediately. As he pondered this, the teacher held out a small item to him. It was a gift to commemorate his first transformation, a skill book. The protagonist thanked him, mentioning how much the teacher had taken care of him over the years and also had a gift for her. He took from his inventory an item called Sacred Wings, an orange tier item with a level 30 requirement. It increased spirit points and offered abilities such as darkness resistance, health recovery, healing effects, and the ability to cast spells without needing to recite the invocations. The teacher was surprised by the orange tier equipment, especially the ability to cast magic without speaking, something that could be vital in critical situations. She said that it was very valuable and that she couldn't accept it, but Ning insisted, saying that it was an item he had acquired during his transformation, and asked her not to be shy. He then informed him that his friend was waiting for him and that he couldn't stay any longer, turning and heading towards Duan. As she walked away, the teacher thought to herself about Ning's generous gesture, gifting her such rare and valuable equipment. Cut to the adventurer examiner's office, where the teacher reported what happened with Ning to Jing. Jing commented that he had never seen anything like this and that Ning would probably be considered a threat, so he suggested they put the case aside. When Kai asked what she meant by closing, John explained that Ning was much more advanced than they could understand at the moment. If he really was a powerful adventurer, it would be best to recruit him quickly without investigating him further so as not to risk angering him. The short-haired girl, who always accompanied Jing, asked if they shouldn't report the case, but Jing denied, deciding that the investigation should be closed, keeping everything confidential. Keat agreed, considering that Ning seemed like a young man with little background and that protecting his privacy was the best course. Jing then suggested that they focus on the fighter. Now, we are at Ning's house at night, with Duan by his side. Ning looked troubled. He explained that the teacher had told him that the investigations into him had been cancelled. Duan, confused, asked if this wasn't good news. Ning confirmed, but expressed concern about how he would continue his training. Whenever he destroyed a kingdom, he attracted a lot of attention, and he was already drawing the attention of the authorities. If this continued, he would end up getting into trouble. Duan agreed, recognizing that being a powerful leader brought different problems than an ordinary person. He would never have imagined that someone could destroy a kingdom so easily. If you hadn't seen it with your own eyes, you would never believe it. Finally, he suggested that Ning train in unregistered realms. With recent changes in the world, many new kingdoms have emerged, some ruled by the authorities and others dominated by evil forces. Ning found the idea viable and asked if Duan knew any of these realms. Duan confirmed he knew of two and said he could look for more if necessary. Ning thanked him, and as he thought about it, he concluded that acting more discreetly would be more effective than being seen as a student. He decided to sell some items at the market and rest a little, also thinking about improving his skill with curses so as not to fall behind the others. Meanwhile, at the Swift Hotel, Dee was walking towards a large door, commenting that he didn't expect it to be so late when returning to Ning's house. He mentioned that he would spend the night there again and then look for a place to rent. When he entered, someone approached him. Duan asked who it was, and the person introduced himself as the newly appointed mayor of King Yu City. A few moments later, the two were seated, with the mayor thanking Duan for her help during the invasion of the kingdom. He asked if Duan had plans to live in the city permanently. Duan confirmed, and the mayor, excited, said that it would be great to have such a strong warrior in the city. Then, he gave Duan a special adventurer certificate with elevated privileges. The mayor, upon handing Duan the card, told him that if he needed anything in the future, he should let him know. He would do his best to help. Duan, in turn, looked at the card as the mayor reflected on how other cities had tried to recruit him before, but all offers had been rejected. He really hoped that Kinu wouldn't be fired, but contrary to what he imagined, Yan just thanked him for his kindness and accepted the proposal. The mayor was confused, not understanding why Duan didn't want to thank him. In the end, Duan thought that the card would probably be useful to Ning later, so he decided to accept it. The mayor, on the other hand, believed that someone with a fourth transformation would make the city of Kanu much safer, even though he didn't understand why Duan accepted it. He said San's suggestion was a good one and asked Duan if he was looking for a place to stay, offering to arrange it immediately. Soon, we returned to Ninja's room, who was playing and winning an MMOA match. Realizing it was late, he got ready for bed, but wondered why the class group was still talking. He noticed that they were discussing the levels reached, with Fang Yu being the strongest at level 27. Someone mentioned that Wang's team had left the city to carry out missions. Our protagonist reflected on his classmates, who had awakened their abilities at the age of 16 to take the university entrance exam. To pass, they needed to have at least one level of transformation. He didn't expect to surpass them in such a short time, but then someone in the group poked him, saying that he spent all his time playing games. Wondering if they were Wan's fans or even a stalker observing his posts. Just as he was about to question why they cared about his life, Professor Kai chimed in, telling him to mind his own business. While another student mentioned that multiple invasions of secret realms were causing serious injuries, some cities had been completely taken over by monsters, rendering safe areas useless. The mutants were also out of control. They talked about a mysterious person who was helping to protect the city. Duan, in turn, had only heard about the changes in the world through the professor, but he didn't expect it to be so serious. He hoped that, after so many good days, nothing would ruin that moment. He also regretted letting that creature escape. Meanwhile, in the kingdom, a figure sneezed, feeling inexplicably scared. The next day, the story moves to the Yuan Qing exhibition, where Yang Xin was approached by a woman who questioned why she was working without fully recovering from her injuries. Yang replied that she was fine despite being injured. The woman, however, scoffed, suggesting that Yang was just eager to return to the university. Yang denied this, but the woman with purple hair revealed that her master was investigating Ning's past. She accused him of being a thief, since at 18, he had woken up late for his star job and without his parents would never have obtained high-class items. Before she could continue, a dark aura emerged, and Ning appeared, summoning a crystal that almost hit the woman's neck. He warned her about the lack of respect, saying he almost lost control. She, scared, backed away, asking if he really dared to use magic in the exhibition, calling the security guards. Yang, worried, asked Ning to leave quickly before the security guards arrived, reminding him that the Yuanchang exhibition had great influence and that ordinary people could not afford to defend their friends. But before they could act, the exposition master and security guards appeared, asking what had given Ning the courage to do something so bold in that place. Ning, without hesitation, explained that he discovered he was being secretly investigated and that Master Wine had labeled him a thief. The master, in turn, said that whether he was a thief or not, he did not have the qualifications to act so boldly. When the security guards approached, Ning held up the black card and asked if they treated all customers that way at the Yuanchang exhibition. Immediately, the security guards, realizing the situation, stopped and showed respect. The exhibition master, surprised, questioned whether the card was really a Black Supreme card. The opportunistic woman doubted its authenticity, but Ning just said that the card was a gift from Mr. Kai and kept it. Wine, curious, asked where he got it from, calling it a fake. Ning simply replied that if he was so good at investigating, he should find out for himself. The purple-haired woman then asked the master what they should do. Wine calmly said he would make a call to find out, asking her to stay there and watch him. A huge commotion broke out in front of the exhibit, which had been closed by security guards, blocking the entrance. We didn't see the conversation between Master Wang and the mayor, but we knew the mayor was furious, asking why Wang was investigating the black card he had given Ning. Wang replied that nothing important had happened. It was just a misunderstanding. But in his mind, he wondered how Ning had learned about Mr. K, whose father was one of the founders of the exhibition. The mayor, still angry, shouted asking how it could be a misunderstanding since the ninja was a valuable acquisition for him, and asked if Wang had offended him. Trying to calm the situation, Wang asked him to calm down, promising to resolve the issue. However, realizing that he had actually offended him, the mayor shouted, calling Wang an idiot and disconnecting the call. Desperately, Wang thought about the relationship between Mr. Kai and Ning, as the mayor seemed to be so furious. So he thought about calling someone, asking if he should tell them about the set of fighters found. If that someone appeared, even Mr. Kai would have to respect Ning. Meanwhile, Ning was sitting on the sofa, playing a little with Yang, both of them waiting in the waiting room. Suddenly, the door opened, and both Mayor Kai and Duan rushed in, calling his name. Ning, surprised, asked how they were there, and Yang noticed that Mr. Kai and the strong man who wanted the set were present. They both seemed to know Ning very well. Visibly irritated, Mayor Kai and Duan watched Ning, and the purple-haired woman curiously asked why they were looking at her, especially why Master Wang looked so exhausted. Master Wang could only say that everything was over. The mayor approached Ning, asking if he wanted an apology. Ning calmly replied that it wasn't necessary, adding that even if they both apologized, it wouldn't make up for their actions. Kai, irritated, ordered everyone to leave immediately. Frustrated, W blamed the purple-haired woman, slapping her in the face. The mayor then ordered security guards to expel everyone from the place. We cut to the waiting room, where Ning was being served by Yang. The mayor noted that Ning seemed to have a good impression of Yang, which wasn't bad for the exhibition's reputation. In Yang's mind, she wondered how Ning, so young, could talk and laugh with such powerful people. Mr. Kai then told Yang that she had been wronged and advised her to work hard, promising that the display would reward her in the future. Ning, in turn, apologized for making the mayor go to such lengths over a trivial problem, but the mayor insisted that it was not trivial. He stated that without them, Long Bofu City would be in great danger. The mayor was looking through the catalog of rare items and asked if anything had interested him. He mentioned an item called the Final Relic and asked if they had heard of it. As the two wondered what the relic was, Ning replied that it was nothing special, just something new he had seen online. We cut to a flashback where Ning was using the skill book the teacher had given him, an item that temporarily replenished his skills during combat with spiritual energy powder. He didn't know what kind of curse it would become, but upon using it, his mind was enlightened with a newly unlocked ability, Dark Convergence. This ability absorbed the dark force from the traces of the Final Relic and transformed it into its own energy. Ning thought that he had never heard of this skill and that the system offered no explanations as to where he should go or what to do. We return to the present, where the mayor said the departure was rushed. He promised that the next time they were in Longbofu, he would pay for everything. The mayor then pulled out a flight scroll and left instantly. After he left, Ning asked Duan if he wanted to eat something. Duan suggested they go to his house in Du Village. Ning asked if this really was a house the city had given him. Duan confirmed, explaining that since Ning was above the 4 transformation level and wanted to stay in the city, he would receive special treatment. Duan then asked if Ning wanted to move there, or if he would prefer to look for another place to live. Ning laughed and replied that it wasn't necessary. He would make enough money to buy a house nearby in the future, and they would be neighbors. Duan generously said that if Ning needed money, he could give it to him. However, Ning insisted that he would not use Duan's money. Recently, by selling equipment, he had gathered enough crystals, and if he exchanged them for money, buying a village would be easy. Our protagonist, for now, decided not to spend his money, as he was afraid that this would leave him without resources in the future if he needed it. He believed he could wait a little longer. As he sipped his tea, Duan commented that the village had a very efficient chief, and he had already made a call to them that they would arrive soon. Ed thought it was convenient, but he had no idea that shortly after, he would receive a call from Mayor Jean. When he answered, he knew that Jean wanted to talk about something that could be a problem for Duan. A team of investigators was in town, looking into the recent disasters, and the mayor wanted to know more about Duan. Surprised, our protagonist remained silent, while Duan, worried about the consequences, suggested that he ask Ed what he thought about it to avoid problems. Duan then informed the mayor that he was busy, and Jean said she would call him back when he was available. After the conversation ended, Ed asked Duan about the investigation team, but Duan said he didn't know anything about them. The scene changes to a distant location, where a man with red eyes and white hair comments that the city of Kinyu was a strange place, full of rumors about a mysterious savior. We cut to a meeting room, where people like Jing and Qi are discussing this savior. No one had seen him, but rumors said he had saved the city. The investigator questions why they talked about him if no one saw him. Jing explained that in fact, the invasion was suddenly stopped, and the mutants were eliminated. This caused speculation, but the situation was complicated. The investigator then adds that in order to properly investigate, they could not just use these rumors, as attacks of king level and above had occurred in the secret realms. He asks what this mysterious savior did to stop these attacks. Professor Kai suggested that in order to protect Ed, Jen had changed information about him, which caused pressure on her. The argument continued when the door opened and Mayor Doctor entered, announcing that he had tried to speak to Duan, but he was busy. One of the investigators, visibly irritated by out-of-control adventurers who acted as if they were important without guilds, said he would resolve this investigation on his own. The scene then moves to a dangerous area of a secret kingdom, where 2 guards question the arrival of an investigator. He greets the guards, and after being recognized, enters the place to carry out his investigations. Once inside, he gazes in awe at the level of destruction and wonders what kind of force it would take to destroy an entire secret kingdom. He makes a joke about the mysterious savior, saying that compared to the force that caused the destruction, it would be like an ant facing an elephant. He begins laughing maniacally as a creature emerges from a crevice. The investigator comments on the dense energy in the area, at can level, and states that everything there would be his. We return to Duan's village, where an irritated Ed was playing a game until he was interrupted by a system notification that the final relic had been found. Suddenly, he realizes that something connects with him through the aura, starting to feel this connection more clearly. Gradually, the location becomes clear. Ed gets up, grabs his jacket, and Duan asks where he's going.